What's going on YouTube? This is Matthew Cool 10 coming at you with another video. Well, my kick lever, well not lever, but the gears and everything just came in the mail. So I was like, well, might as well make the video on how to install it. Because yeah, I made one on how to deinstall it. Reinstalling it is pretty much the same thing, but might as well make a video, help some people out. Make sure you all get this little piece right here off your original one. It's the washer that goes from that shaft right there onto the bottom of the rod. It makes it to where this C-clip right here don't get damaged. Kind of important because everything will just go flying if you don't have it on there. I don't think it matters which way it's on there, up or down. Just slap it on there just to hold in the C-clip. But yeah, as you all see, same exact parts, just one got a shaft, one does not got a shaft. Spare parts, because like these high compression bikes, it's a 35cc, 35cc, what the fuck? 350cc, they have high compression, so these do break. So remember, make sure that line is above this black line up here where it has somewhere to catch. Remember, the washer. And you just make sure the gears are lined up right there. And then you just come on there, you little son of a gun. All you gotta do is wiggle this back and forth until it pops into place. It's not in place. I'm going to put down my phone where I can wiggle it in there. There we go. It's in there. Now for the actually important part. Let me inspect these two springs right here. See which one's the better spring. It looks like the new spring is actually in worse condition. So I might be going back with my old spring. Never mind. My old spring has some cut marks in it. Looks like we're going with new spring. To start these springs off, there ain't no like you gotta do it by this, but here's what I do. I line that up, not on the bolt, but on the little gear inside there, like this piece on there, and then push that in there. Again, this would be easier if I had a camera, dude. As you see, it popped right in there. Now this does that. So then you grab a picker. You don't have to use a picker, you can use a flat way. You want to make sure you're holding this down where that don't pop out. You want to spring this all the way back here. When it gets on here, make sure you push it back to the lip. Once it hits this lip right here, you should be fine. That's your lever installed. We'll put it down, and I'm going to show that. Now, this is going off of the last video. That's why the case is already removed. So if you didn't see how to do that, just refer back to my last video on how to deinstall the shaft. But if you don't know how to pull off the case, you probably shouldn't be working on a dirt bike or for anything in that matter, because it's just simple bolts. Well, for this motor, it's supposed to be screws, but I fabricated some because it was all stripped out. Now I'm gonna put down my phone, get that spring loaded, and I'll be right back with y'all. Stupid clutch. Ain't too hard as you all see. I didn't cut the video. It's in there. As you all see, it's back there on the groove. Can't pull it forward, can't push it back. You'd have to pull that down and out like I showed. Now that shaft is installed. As you see, I rotate the motor, it does that. Alrighty, let's put on this case. Start off with pulling out the bolts. I need to fix that bolt where it don't have a nut on it. That's how I got it. And I fabricated every other bolt but that one, outside of the other two for the oil filter. And I do need to fabricate another bolt for the hole right here, because that's also on the oil filter. It's right here. This is a very short bolt and it just hits the case. And that's why I didn't have to pull that one out in the first video, or this video for that matter. Now watch on this. Oh crap. This is your compression release. Remember where this is if you want to hook up your compression release. This dirt bike is missing all the cables and stuff, so mine's not going to have it. It's just going to have straight old compression, because I'm not investing in that. Like, yeah, it would probably be a smart thing where the shaft don't end up breaking again, but I'm gonna be careful. I know how to kick over a bike. Now, as you see, what I do is I start from this bolt right here, lay it right here, then I go around where I keep track of each bolt, because each bolt is a different length. There's some that are the same, but I wouldn't risk it. Definitely if you're not savvy on how a wrench feels, like when bolts start to get tight. You'll see like, oh yeah, it's far from the case, it probably has a while to go. I do need to redo this one because this is actually just barely threaded in there and it's touching, as you see. That's just, I went too far on the grinder. Or I got a bolt mixed up. We'll notice whenever I put on the case. We'll find out when I go to put on the case. Because I dropped something on the bolts whenever I pulled them out, and it kind of mixed up some, I think, but at the same time I'm not really sure. Do not forget to inspect your surface right here for any like high spots, low spots, which I think right here is actually a high spot. But I'm not really going to worry about it because my case wasn't leaking any oil or anything. I did inspect that because I inspect the bike completely whenever I buy them. But this case, it ain't leaking oil. So I'm just going to go put on the gasket onto the case, and then I'll be right back. Oh, another thing. This oil passage line right here that goes to your head, I just thread them back in like that where I can keep track of where these little washers needed to be. Because on the head, there's actually not a washer for right here. I'm not sure if that's a factory or whatnot, but that's how it is on this bike, and it's not leaking oil this way. That's how I'm keeping this bike. But for installation purposes, I'm going to deinstall it. You don't have to if you all are following along. I'm just going to do this for the people that don't do it. Because some people don't. They just pull everything off. Like the oil filter cap. I'm not pulling that off. There's no point. I'm not putting a new oil filter in there. I got a new oil filter. It's not going in there yet. Because I got to flush my system. Because of the shavings from my ring that I blew. So it's not going in there yet. So the old one's going to stick in there. And if y'all are ever rebuilding anything inside of a motor that was previously metal, buy a new oil filter and do a flush. Do not put your new oil filter in there until you do your flush, because you're wasting a brand new oil filter. I feel like some of this stuff is, you know, like common sense, but I've seen people not and completely screw their motor. So I'm just saying. For an instant, like this kickstart, if the gear inside of it blew and that's the reason why you're rebuilding it and not like the outside shaft like me, yes, you're going to want to flush your system because there's the shavings from the gears and shit. Then you'd also want to inspect the gear behind your clutch. Make sure it didn't hurt your gear, because if it hurt your gear, you know, that's tough. You got to replace it. Okay, so make sure you also inspect this surface. I know mine ain't the best, but it holds oil. That's all that matters. Yeah, my surface is not the best surface, but it's a good surface. By the way, compression release shit. I don't pay attention to it because mine don't have compression release. I guess I just knocked that into my motor. I'm going to put the case, lay it on top of the motor right here, and then I'll get back to the video. But I'm going to put it on where I can have two hands instead of the camera in my hand. So I'm going to lay down it. Again, wish I had a camera person. Oh, and make sure you don't force it past your kickstart, because you can screw your kickstart up, like the threads on it. I've seen that done a few times as well. So these xt350s, in order to get your case to actually properly pop on there, you gotta thread in some bolts. So as you all see, I put mine on there. I got it past the threads. It's not all the way to the motor, but it's past the threads to where it will not mess the threads up. Well, now it is. And then I put this top bolt in there just to hold it on there. You want to put all the bolts in before you go to start tightening down, where you don't screw up your gasket. This one is not threading in. Don't tighten down your bolts, just put them in. Why is this one not tightening down? I'm going to inspect it. I cannot figure out why it's not threading. Okay, it started to thread. I just had to keep trying. And I broke my toolbox. By the way, I'm sitting on a toolbox. Get your next one. Remember, this is for your compression release. There's a little tiny hole on the bottom right here. Line that up with the little notch on the motors. You see it's sticking out now. Sorry for the light. I didn't really feel like moving the whole motor. I'm gonna tighten that up to the point it ain't gonna fall out. I don't even have a single wrench out. I'm underprepared. I don't have a ratchet, I don't have a wrench out. And I'm pretty sure these are 2mm. I converted screws to millimeters. I know I'm smart. Oh, by the way, the reason why this one wasn't threading was because the case was not lined up. Make sure your case is lined up. Can't stress that enough. Because you can screw your gasket up. Luckily, I did not screw my gasket up. Now this screw, I'm not expecting it to actually reach threads because of the gap. Well, they're ever wondering where your oil fill thing is, it's right here. But I would just go off what it says right there, 1300 cm. Just go by that. Measure it out before you put it in your motor. That's what I do. I wouldn't go by the fill thingy. put exactly what your case says on it, and you'll be good. Then always go by your cap up here, even though I recommend 10W40 on your, like that's what your oil weight should be when you're working with like a dirt bike or a four-wheeler. Synthetic, of course. That's what I run, and I highly recommend it. And if y'all want, you don't have to, I would recommend running some Slick 50 in your oil. It helps it a little bit. It like helps your lifetime. But as I said, it's a dirt bike. You don't have to. It's not a car. It would increase the lifetime, but it's a car. I mean, it's not a car. I wouldn't worry about it. Alright, now I'm getting my tools. And actually, when I look to my right over here, apparently I left out my tools the last time I was out here with y'all. Well, at least I left out my wrench. I think these are a 10. Yeah, they're a 10. So I'm considering I didn't cut a lot of this bolt off. I'm going to get this snug with this. I'm not going to tighten it down. Get all your bolts to the point that it's touching here, but not forcing it on, where it does not put on there straight, because you can still screw this up or something inside. Sorry, I don't have a cameraman. This bolt is long. I really do need to cut this bolt. I'm going to get around to it. Probably whenever I do my oil flush, I'll get around to it. Now, I also fabricated another bolt for my case on the oil filter. I'm waiting until I get a new oil filter cover though, because I'm going to be buying a new one. It's just about snug. Give me a few more turns, guys. Sorry, the rest of the bolts are not this long. As you all see, just snug, didn't pull it any closer. Now I'm gonna fold this one because as you see, it kind of popped out of place. Make sure you put this on there, because your compression release, if y'all actually have one, will not work proper. There we go. That bolt is done. As you all see, I didn't pull it close to the motor. Just got it to where this don't fall off. Okay, now do the same with these bolts. I didn't really thread these in there far at all. Again, using one hand, or I grab the stupid socket while I'm doing this. Check it every so often. Make sure you don't pull it close. At this point you can with these bolts if you truly wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it, because really the only thing you're trying to prevent from happening is this right here not going on sideways, where it don't mess up your shaft. But at the same time, good luck screwing that shaft up, but I like to be safe. I'm pulling this bolt out. Okay, so I'm actually going to tighten down this top bolt, and then after I tighten it down, I'm going to give it a few little love taps right in the middle. Don't like give it a love tap here. Give it a love tap here if you're going to give it a love tap, because it will equal out the love tap. I wouldn't use a hammer with your love taps. I see a lot of people do, but I don't want to accidentally crack my case. I know it's hard to do that, but at the same time, do you really want to risk spending that kind of money? I sure don't. Okay. After you hear that pop, by tightening these two bolts equally, that means this part, I think, is on there. I couldn't tell until I get the kicker. I might have to actually deinstall this because I don't think I installed this proper. I think I did, but that pop really got me concerned. I'm not pulling this off because I'm too close to being done. I think the spring might have popped off, if anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten down this bolt, try to pop this side of the case on there and see if it was just like a uneven thing. Because that's what I'm figuring. And of course, that one top bolt ain't the same size as the rest. I think it's an 11 or a 12. It is an 11. And I actually think that bolt might be the factory bolt, but I think the bottom one is. I think these are hex keys. I'm not really sure because I got it from someone that works like I do. Just fabs up some bolts if that bolt messes up instead of buying OEM bolts, because it's cheaper. Okay, so the case is pretty much flat, but as you see right here, there's a gap. I'm going to tighten down this bolt and see if it fixes it. I think I finally found out what that pop was. It not being even. I think that's what it was. Because if you don't put these on even, oh yeah, you're going to hear a few pops. That's it cussing you out for not doing it the right way. And that's my bad. I've put on many cases. I'm going to move you all a little closer where I can grab you easier. And right now, my hands are getting a little oily. It's starting to get harder for me to pop sockets off. So remember that picker from earlier? Comes in handy to pop off sockets as well. A flat way does the same job. Okay, now the case is mated. I'm going to check the bottom, but the top of the case is mated. Side of the case, almost mated. Right here, it's still like not it, so I'm going to tighten down this bolt. Right next to the speedometer cable. My bike don't have a speedometer. So just pay attention to how your speedometer went off. I have no clue how they are installed on these bikes because mine didn't come with it when I bought the bike. I'm planning on getting one for it though, so I'll have an installation video on that whenever I get it. Don't take my word on that because I might not get it. Okay, so now that right there, that bolt's tightened, I ain't tightening them all the way down. Remember that, just get them snug, because you still got bolts like this. Now I'm going to try to put this one back in. Of course, it ain't catching a thread. And it is mated, so this bolt right here got mixed up with another bolt. I'll figure out which bolt that is. I'm about to tighten down this bolt and see if there's any extra room. If there's any extra room, I'm pulling it out and putting it up here. putting this bolt here.
Ain't those some sexy parts down there? And installations always take longer than the extillations. For the simple fact of, yeah, that's just how life works. And it don't help that I don't have like one of those simple little tiny impacts that won't like harm anything. Because I do got an impact, but it's an air impact, and it will probably strip all these bolts out if I try to hook anything up to them. Do not use an air impact if you're going to use them for case bolts, because if you do, you run the risk of stripping your shit out. Okay, that bolt was actually the proper bolt. I might just have to fab up another bolt. Because what I'm thinking happened is whenever I installed it, it might have screwed up a thread on the bolt. So that's why it's not catching no more. Now, I'm going back up to the top.
If you remember, this bolt was snug. It got pulled closer. I can do it with my hand now. Now it's snug again. Well, no, not yet. It's just about. Now it's snug, but it ain't tight. Same with down here. As you're tightening this case up, what used to be tight will not be tight no more because it's popping closer and closer to the case. As you see up here, I got this bolt snug. This was the first bolt I snugged up. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is the one I popped the case on with. No, this ain't. This is the second one, the one I went to even it out with. So I'm going to tighten down this bolt a little bit, not all the way, because still there's bolts that ain't tight yet. Yeah, I probably actually should catch these bolts up before I do anything, where it don't put stress on anything. About to get the ratchet on this one right here, just because how far off it is.
I really wish I had a cameraman. By the way, if you're wondering where I get all my bolts to fabricate, I go to Tractor Supply. I simply take out the old bolt, as long as it got like thread still on it, find a nut that fits it. Oh, remember that bolt that I said was actually probably going to need a new one? Yeah, I was wrong. That one I threaded in the bottom actually wasn't the right bolt for down there. So I got those two bolts mixed up. That's my bad. Even when I investigated it, I didn't realize. That is a big ol' my bad. I feel dumb right now. Come on. I'm the one that fabbed these bolts. I should know. Then again, it's been a while. It has been a while. Also need to buy me another bolt kit that like has like all these different bolts and stuff from Harbor Freight or Lowe's or some part like store, you know. Shoot, I think Walmart even sells like mixed bolts and nuts. Make sure if you're buying a bolt kit, you also get them that has the nuts for them, where you can like figure out what kind of bolt you got for fabrication purposes. You're still going to need to figure out what size that bolt is before you can fabricate a new one for it. Okay, now that you got all your bolts snug, you want to go around them. And I don't have the torque specs, so I go by wrench tight. If you don't know what wrench tight is, it's just going a little past tight with a wrench. Don't snap your bolt. I would practice this on something you don't care about first. And then you want to alternate. Do not just do it to one bolt and then say that bolt's good. You want to test that bolt like 5 times after you tighten other bolts though. Like go in a circle. Tighten a bolt a little bit, go to the next. Tighten the bolt a little bit, go to your next. It's a case. If you don't get this thing tight enough, you're going to be leaking oil. Remember that when you're tightening these bolts. Don't go too tight because you will strip something out. Now if the wrench just won't move, do not force it. I put 2 fingers on the bottom of the ratchet and push. When you can't push no more with 2 fingers, that's tight enough. It'll hold oil. Then again, that might be a strength thing. Sometimes I only use my thumb. It honestly depends. I normally do 2 fingers to my thumb. Alright, all my case bolts are nice and snug outside of one, because if you remember, one of them was a different size. Now I'm going to pop this sucker off, get that other size. Sorry y'all are seeing a buttload of nutting. Okay. Boom. Tightened all down to all the bolts. Make sure your cap's on there good. I need to buy a new cap. It's like 7:30. Someone got hungry. But as you see, if you only see threads, it ain't far enough on there. Or you got the wrong shaft. Because you should see a little bit of that. Because if the shaft is still in the case, it will strip your shaft. And that's how you install a shaft, guys. Oh, this oil line right here. Oh, crap. Oops. This oil line right here. It only goes on one way. I think it... Hold on. Let me figure out which way's which. Okay, that way ain't it. That way is it, but the bolt's on backwards. That would make a lot of sense. That's why I was confused, guys. The bolt was on backwards. Keep your bolts how they go. You won't get confused. And these washers are pretty hard on there. But your oil passage line, I'm not putting mine on yet, but your oil passage line should go a little something like that. I'm not putting mine on yet because my top end ain't there. So, of course, I'm not going to do that because that tightens into the top end, that tightens into the case. And I'm not going to try to fool around trying to fit that massive thing on here with this in the way. I'm just going to throw this back in my part bucket over there and call it a day. Just like that. Hey, old piston. That's what gave me grief. That's the whole reason why the top end's off of it. Actually, I might take the bolt out of the bottom one
and well, actually I might put it on there, but I'll deinstall it before I put on the top end, just where I can keep that hole plugged. I know I keep a tarp over, well, a shirt over all this to keep crap off of it, but hey, never gonna be too safe. You're working with a motor here. You don't want crap getting in your motor. That's top dog, nothing. You don't want, well, of course you want oil, that's it. You don't want dirt, you don't want sand, you don't want that crap in there. Sand breaks bearings like it's breakfast. Don't want it in there. Get it in there, you want to do flushes like crazy just to get that crap out, because it will eat your bearings. You don't want your crankshaft bearings being shot. That will screw your whole motor. That will crack your case. You'll be like seeing a piston right here if you do that, because it will sling that rod faster than you can say it slung a rod. You don't want that happening. If your motor slings a rod on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler, buy a new one. Scrap that one. It ain't worth rebuilding. It's going to cost you a lot more to rebuild that than buying a new one. That's normally only true with cars. That's the one thing happens on a four-wheeler that tanks them. Don't do it. It's rare, but it happens. Normally because sand don't get in your motor. Because you're smart like me and you take it inside of a garage and you put it on a fucking chair. That ain't really smart, let's be honest. It's putting it on a fucking chair. I won't get that oil. I will put that oil package line on there where I can call it a fucking day. And let my buddy know my part came in. He can't wait until this thing's up and running, or me and him are gonna go riding. Still haven't ordered the top end. This coronavirus crap is eating everybody's wallets, really. If the coronavirus wasn't here, my motor probably would be done. No lie. And y'all would have all the tasty video. That's not how it looks whenever it's on the motor. I use this as like a wrench. I just like pushed on it and it tightened the bolt up for me. Don't do that. Highly don't recommend it. I just know how much pressure it takes to bend those. I've worked on bikes and shit like a lot. Now, I'd recommend if y'all got spare parts like I do that came off your motor instead of the shaft, because the shaft is bad. Keep them. Just like this. Just find you a part bucket and just right there. Because the only thing that's wrong with that right there is the shaft. It was cheaper to buy a whole entire setup than it was to buy that shaft. Think about one of those gears. It's gonna cost an arm and a fucking leg. Just be smart like me. Keep your old fucking parts. Because this shaft will not fucking break for a long ass time. It's brand fucking new. All those internal bits. One wrong thing goes in this motor, that fucking gear is stripped. Or some stupid shit like that. Or that fucking spring. If you put too much load on that spring on accident, that spring fucking snaps. You got a fucking backup. You don't have to wait to buy a new one. You got a backup. Take the case off, fucking replace it. I shown you how to fucking do it just now. Within 2 videos, of course, but it shows you how to fucking deassemble this shit, reassemble it. It's all fucking on my channel. I'm going to be doing a how to flush your motor upcoming video when I go to flush mine, because mine is riddled with fucking metal shavings from it blowing a fucking ring. And the piston's all scored, so probably a little bit from the piston, a little from the jug, gotta bore the bitch. And it's fucking, yeah. I want to have a friend bore it for me because I don't have a fucking bore scope. But for now, where the fuck did I put that damn thing? Oh, it's right there. For now, it's fucking done. Highly recommend tarping your shit. Can't get no dirtier on you if you have a tarp over it. And make sure you put up your tools. This is Matthew Cool 10. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you all want to see more bike videos.